Hey Ann, thanks for having me over to your lovely home the other day. Just wanted to give you the analysis and the breakdown, show you kind of where we stand, but also walk you through my thinking. It's helpful to me even because sometimes I come back later when the appraisal comes back and I have to go back and justify how we got this house priced. So take a look, let me know what you think, and I can answer any questions. Thanks. Okay, this is your house, our subject property. You see that our square footage is listed at 1,573. They cite the tax record, and they had it listed at 114 when you got it for 100. So good job. That purchase will prove to be really smart as we go through this. Okay, again, the tax record, we can break it down again, but I'm just trying to show you that we're in agreement here on the square footage. I can measure. If it comes out higher, then great, we may get a little bit more money. If it comes out lower, we can always cite the tax record. So looking through all of these, what I did first was I started with Donaldson Hills, and just most appraisers are going to go outside the neighborhood. They'll have to go outside the neighborhood for at least one comparable sale. So I went back a year, which is really too far, but as I've talked to you in our meeting, we're not going to try to sell to the appraisal. We're going to just treat that part of the process as a separate negotiation. So we're going to have to negotiate price and terms on the front end, repairs, and then finally, if the appraisal comes back low. There's a lot of value built into a sale by what you offer on the market that an appraiser doesn't have the matrix to really analyze, and that's not his job for the banks. So we're not going to worry about him too much until that time comes. So here's our three sales in Donaldson Hills that I could actually use. I had a bunch of junk in there that I had to cut out. But this one right here is a 1,300 square foot house for 118 a square foot. I mean, this Grammy one I couldn't really use, but it's recent enough, 83. And then Delrose for 103 a square foot. Now we're going to cast the net just a little bit wider. Most people aren't going to be specific to the Donaldson Hills, maybe just a few people. But we're going to just briefly scroll through these real quick, and as I hover over, you'll see the square footage come up, 91, 105, 118, 121, so on. We'll go down to the bottom, 103, 113. What you see is just an average trend in Donaldson that says that our cap there is about anywhere between, depending on which neighborhood, in this type of house, anywhere between 115 and 100 a square foot. The average is way closer to 100, 110 a square foot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cherry pick our best four comps. Now, normally that wouldn't be very honest of us to just pick the best four. However, I really do think that your house is in a comparable condition to these best four comparable sales. So this is kind of what I settled on at the end. What you have here is this one for 118, 121, 123, and 113. Now, I'm going to take you through each one of these and show you why these are our most comparable. And I did drop off a couple that I felt were close, but for whatever reason, they were inferior. Okay, so this is 206 Donaldson Hills. Very good comparable in the fact that it's actually in your neighborhood. Nice little house, galley kitchen, linoleum floors. You can see they did some taste-specific stuff. They haven't painted out all their trim. Some people prefer that. I definitely don't. Old school bathroom still. They do have a nice little courtyard parking with a garage. That garage is probably adding about 10 grand, but I'm not making adjustments for that because I don't think the house is as nice as your house. So going to the next one here. Come on, computer. All right, this is 2649 Woodbury. Again, great little house. Great style. They really missed an opportunity to do better with the photos on this one. This one was staged, stainless appliances. It does have painted cabinets. They look adorable, but not quite as nice as having your cabinets. Good style again. I love the tile. Updated bathroom. Nice little backyard, a little storage building. The storage building is not going to add value, but it is a good selling feature for somebody who doesn't have a garage. They'll look for something like that to justify the purchasing a house without a lot of storage. And of course, none of these little Donaldson houses have a lot of storage. Even the ones that have garages usually get filled with other things. So this one was recorded just for comparable sales purposes. They don't have any photos, so can't use. I mean, I can't do a subjective analysis of the finishes and things like that. And then this one on Cabin Hill. Cabin Hill is not a sought-after neighborhood. It's actually called Sunset, but it is comparable to Lincoln Hills and Sutherland Heights. This was a really nice house. You can see the cabinets are great, stainless appliances with the real wood cabinets. Sharp little place. They did have a little garage in here too. So actually, I take that back. I think that garage was finished. No, it's not. Okay, so that one did have a garage. And finally, what I wanted to do is just show you why the photos are going to be so much better in your house. This is an example of one I have listed now. Actually, I had it listed, sold immediately. So, and this one's so ridiculously priced above comps. I mean, I'll be shocked if we get it, but like I said earlier, if we get the appraisal, we'll be happy. If we don't get the appraisal, we'll negotiate. So, rather be in that situation. But this is just, I mean, it's minor to some folks, but having these nice photos will get people in the door that may have passed up the house. I mean, especially in this house where they opted not to paint the knotty pine cabinets. They did install granite and stainless steel. You know, I have this conversation with folks a lot about paneling and cabinets, and I say always paint them, but people don't like to do it. So finally, what I want to do is just walk you through our whole analysis here, and we're going to put it all together. That's just a quick overview of all the hours worth of legwork I have into it before we get started here. So here's the analysis on your place. I'm going to talk you through it. This is the part that I say I have to ground you guys in reality, and that's simply that Donaldson sells between 95 and 110 a square foot. That's an average of those few houses that I showed you that were higher. Those were definitely outliers. If I were to take the middle of that range in good condition, we'd be looking at 95 to 110 a square foot. With these hard numbers, an appraiser is going to come up with a price between 149 and 173, and that's actually going up above the 110 to about 115 a square foot. So just to give you an idea, this is the part where you take a deep breath and you say, in reality, my house could sell for between this range. Now, we've talked a lot about how I'm really bullish on Donaldson, so we call that fantasy land. Now, fantasy land takes into some subjective things that the objective appraiser is not going to take into account. First is that the inventory is really sparse, and if an appraiser is going to take the best and then adjust for inversion, meaning the smaller houses, we could get as much as 120, more likely 115 a square foot. We did have one at 124 that was smaller, which could have been adjusted down, but you have to have an average of those three numbers. So we're going to be more likely around 115 a square foot. Now, I'm bullish on Donaldson for these reasons, is that I'm going to ground you in reality. So we went through reality. And then I want to be transparent with how comparables affect the sales, how the appraisals will affect the sale, and how buyer aversions could affect the sale. I think I've covered those first two. So the last one, these buyer aversions, here's some of the potential problems that I could see us running into. One is that we'll get the objection of no garage. Some of these had garages. It could drop our price another 10 grand. No true master suite. Again, that just brings down where we may be able to sell for. And then the final thing that we look at is total price. Now, I have already gone into a deeper analysis of this, but sometimes when we can come up with the numbers to justify a higher price, it puts us in a range so high that it opens other options for us. For example, if I tried to sell your house for 190, begs the question, well, what could I get for 190 in other areas? You know, maybe I'd go to Abington Park and get a newer home, or maybe I'd go to Mount Juliet. You can actually price yourself out of a place even though you have the numbers to support it. So going back, my suggested list price would be 179. Now that is a little below the 120 a square foot. However, you got to remember, I cherry picked those highest numbers, and they still averaged under 120 a square foot. So I think at 179, you guys are going to be making some money, and we're going to get this house sold. It may be a quick sale. However, I don't think 189 is going to change the game much. I would be willing to list for as high as 189, but you're going to have sold for more per square foot than any other house that size in Donaldson Hills, and with the exception of Bluefields in Donaldson, period. So I think you'll be doing really good at 180. It's going to raise the bar for Donaldson, but it's going to be really good for you guys too. If you have any other questions, just let me know, and I look forward to talking to you. Thanks.